start. I'm Greg Albo from the Center for Social Justice, the York University Socialist Project, I'll chair tonight's discussion of the book, The Contradictions of Pension Fund Capitalism. This is the first talk you're doing based on the book, edited by Kevin Scarrett, Johanna Westar, Simon Archer, and Chris Roberts. I think Simon is here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there he is. Yep, I thought I saw it. A terrific book on pension funds, and everything else. Tonight's talk is sponsored by the Center for Social Justice, Socialist Project, the Global Labor Research Center from York University. Tonight's talk and discussion of the book on pensions actually begins from a workshop that Kevin and I helped assist Kevin about, I guess, 3-4 years ago now?
2013.
Yeah, at the Center for Social Justice, a series of workshops we held on pension funds that had many of the contributors to this book present at. It was dealing particularly with some of the general changes that had occurred with pensions in Canada. Some of it has to do with when we look at the Canadian pension plan and the big public sector pensions, then in fact when we total those up, Canada has the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world when we total them. Bigger than Norway's, bigger than the Saudis, etc. That is the largest pool of investable funds in the world when we total those up. And some of them had to do with the structure of those funds, and some of it also had to do with what we were discussing of the changes that occurred beginning in the late 90s when the Liberal Party under Chrétien changed the operations of the Canadian Pension Plan and formed the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board. And slowly they began shifting the mandate of the pension plan. Till now, I think it's over 90% of our pension fund money is invested outside of Canada. It doesn't go to fund infrastructure in Canada. It goes to hold equity funds or buying firms, taking a controlling role often in the various kinds of operation, from hockey rinks to water supplies, etc. Dealing with the transition that has occurred in the operation of these funds through particularly funding a lot of P3 structures. One of the big ways this has expanded is of course with the Trudeau government's development of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, which will be heavily dependent upon the Canadian pension funds also contributing to try to leverage infrastructure development in Canada, and particularly the focus of that fund will be to P3 as much as possible infrastructure development. There is also the way that through time our tiered pension structure through the OAS, through the GIC, through the RSPs, through the occupational pension plans has also become increasingly skewed towards benefiting particularly the upper income groups through the RSP and other structures, and the problems of the bottom tier of the OAS and the GIC, which at various points in time the Canadian Labour Congress and other sections of the labour movement have been campaigning on to expand. To deal with these issues, we have some of Canada's best researchers and commentators on the Canada pension, on the pension plan structures in Canada. We'll start with Janice Folk-Dawson, who works on these issues from her position as president of the trades and custodial staff at CUPE Local 1334 at the University of Guelph. And she is also the president of the Guelph and District Labour Council, and she sits on the OFL Executive Board.
Thank you for that. I too wish to acknowledge the ancestral traditional territories of the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe, and in particular the Mississauga of the New Credit, whose territory we are gathering on today. I'm very excited to be here and a little nervous. When asked to be here to introduce the book, I thought, as I'm sure you are thinking, why me? I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about why me, why this book, and why labor needs to examine its capacity to defend defined benefit pension plans and demand government provides good pensions for all. So why me? I'm not an academic nor union staff. Instead, I bring the perspective of a unionized public sector pension plan member in an elected leadership role in my workplace and provincially in my union and the Ontario Federation of Labour. I've been on the sidelines of this path as I attended almost all of the pension sessions organized in 2013, continued to attend pension educationals within the labor and social justice movement, and for the last few years participated in the attempt to build a jointly sponsored pension plan for the university sector. I've kept all the notes in my red book, and tonight I'm going to finish off the last few pages recording our speaker's comments.
Right on.
I've been privileged to be a unionized public sector employee for over 40 years, first with NAPE in Newfoundland and Labrador, and for the last 32 years with the Canadian Union of Public Employees at the University of Guelph. I come from a union, CUPE, and a sector in CUPE, the university sector, where pensions are on the bargaining table, unlike other sectors or in CUPE or other public sector unions where they participate in a provincial pension plan like OMERS or HOOP. It is not unusual in the university sector that local leadership, often the president or chair, is a spokesperson for the local during bargaining, and in some cases the bargaining committee members share the responsibility of spokesperson. I have negotiated 7 collective agreements at my university, have been at many other bargaining tables in the sector, in particular when they are in conciliation or mediation, and have been playing a facilitation role in coordinating the 8 CUPE locals involved in the JSPP. I believe workers understand and defend their pensions in a much different way when plan members are at the bargaining table, and it's for that reason I wrestled with, and at times continue to wrestle with, university pension plans being moved into a JSPP pension structure like OMERS or HOOPS, and out of the hands of rank and file plan members. I approach bargaining, including bargaining pensions, from a working class position. I have never lived in a home that's been owned. As a child and as an adult, we have always rented. I was raised, and through my whole working career, believed that after participating by contributing to my workplace pension plan, I would and should get a pension when I retired. I believed that this was the promise or contract I had with my employer. I also believed that retirees were safe and that all widows and widowers would be taken care of. These are no longer safe assumptions, and I am not sure that the labor movement has the capacity or the political will to defend retirement with dignity and public defined benefit pension plans. Many of us have watched as our business trade union leaders have forced concessionary bargaining on pensions with our union staff, putting many of the concessions we face at the pension bargaining table being delivered by our unions, us. Our employers are able to stay at the table. We, the local union, don't take concessions, we just force them on others. Why this book? Trade unionists negotiating pensions must have the history of how we got what we got, how we lost what we lost. We need to understand how our pensions are being used to fund the privatization of the public sector, including the contracting out and outsourcing of custodial and food service work, removing pensions from more and more workers. If ever this book was needed, it is now, and needed by trade union leadership, local union executives, and rank and file members. Everyone wants to see workers retire with a pension that provides a quality of life that is deserved after a working career. How do we ensure good pensions without unethical investments, including in P3 infrastructures or other schemes that eliminate public sector jobs? How do we expose to our members what their contributions are being used for? Existing pensions were hard fought for and should be defended, but if we don't address the inequity and the problems, it will just get worse. The reality is most workers don't have a workplace pension and won't be getting one. How can we continue to fight for a workplace pension plan and not make that a fight for public pensions? Many unions are accepting that workplace pensions are becoming two-tiered. We need to create spaces for the difficult discussions about coverage, concessions, and investments that lead to private-public partnerships. We will only achieve retirement with dignity, after all, by ensuring good pensions for all. To achieve, we must lift everyone up, no matter their income, by receiving a decent pension that is publicly funded and distributed fairly. Workplace pensions contribute to the inequity in our pension system. In most of our public sector workplaces, It is white, able-bodied, straight men who are the top wage earners, hence the top pension earners. Most often, this is a good reflection of the elected union leadership, but not the composition of its membership. It is these same individuals who sit on many bargaining committees and pension committees. Again, a reflection of who is making the decisions without the reflection of who the decisions impact. The labor movement has not had the capacity to defend defined benefit pensions in the private sector, as we saw with Valley Inc., and are struggling now in the public sector with the example of what's happening at Carleton. Our lack of strength to defend pensions at the bargaining table, along with the systemic inequity of workplace pensions, demand that we challenge and change our tactics. We need to build our capacity as a labor movement to lobby and influence government to achieve public pensions. Trade unionists, both elected leadership and grassroots, need this book as a resource tool. We need discussion points and an alternative way of looking at these issues around pensions. I look forward to hearing from our speakers and the thoughtful exchange of ideas, perceptions, and possible capacity building strategies and tactics that will follow. To the authors and contributors of the Contradiction of Pension Fund Capitalism, thank you for providing a resource document that provides perspective and discussion opportunities. Peace and solidarity.